Hello, Bengals fans, and welcome to Week 8. It has been an eventful week here in terms of injuries, in terms of trades, and the hits do not stop coming this morning. With Michael Jordan now out with an illness, that makes 0 of the starting 5 offensive linemen from Week 1 starting today. I am Matt Minnick, and with me today is Ace, doing a little bit of a crossover here with the Orange is the New Black podcast. So happy to have you here today, Ace. How you doing?
Man, glad to be here, man. I was doing good until, like you said, we kind of got some bad news there. So I'm doing all right, man. You know, we have to weather the storm, I guess.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's. To play on and build on your analogy, like when it rains, it pours. Right. It's just getting worse and worse, and we were talking a little bit before. This old line was starting to look pretty good.
Right.
Like they were hanging in there. They're coming along. They're getting better, and like they talk about cohesion, it's a real thing. Like they're getting better as they're going along, and now we're going to see guys that we haven't seen. We're going to see Shaq Calhoun at guard. All of a sudden, we see a little bit of. He looked good last week, so that's good. Fred looked good last week at right tackle, so that's good. And then Hakeem is a guy that I love coming out, but was definitely not expecting to see at this point of the year. And really, we saw 4 plays of him at tackle at the end of the last game, and I think 3 or 4 plays all year as a tight end, as an extra tight end from him. So that, I mean, woof. Definitely comes at you fast, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you say, you hit the nail on the head. I think after that Baltimore Ravens game, right, we all were like, get Jim Turner out of here. This offensive line is horrible. There was all kind of stuff going on. The sky was falling. And then, like you said, the last 2 games, offensive line played solid. I kind of talked about that last week as well. Like that was one of the bright moments of that game, to have 3 starters go out of that game with injuries and have those guys come in and play admirably. Like I almost thought that Myles Garrett was literally going to blow that game up. He already had 2 sacks before with the starters in, and then all of these guys came in after Trey Hopkins went out, after Jonah Williams went out, after even Bobby Hart went out. So I was like worried at that point. I was just like, goodness, let's just get Joe out of this game. I don't want him to get hurt. And they filled in admirably, like you said. And then we get the news today. No Michael Jordan. So it's going to be a tough one. I think the one thing that bodes well in their favor, that like we were talking about before this game, is the fact that the Tennessee pass rush isn't amazing. It's not like a Pittsburgh. It's not like anything like that. Of course, obviously they have Clowney, but I've been a big proponent and critical of Clowney because he's never really been a sack guy. He's definitely great at stopping the run and creating some pressure, but he's never going to be a guy that can completely wreck the game. Well, this might be the first game that he may get a sack, because we'll have to see, because obviously when you have younger guys in there, guys who haven't had as much experience, guys who might not be ready in terms of gameplay conditioning, some stuff can happen. So I'm just hoping that Joe Burrow can keep us in this game, and that they can keep Joe Burrow upright in this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point about Clowney. Everybody talks about that guy, but he's really good, but he's just not what people think he is. He's definitely not a guy. He can rush the passer a little bit, but you want him more on the move. You want him inside. You want him looping around. Like he's not a just take the edge, win. Like, I mean, obviously they move Garrett around too, but you can just stick Garrett at one spot and he's going to win.
Right.
Yeah, Clowney's not that guy. I'm more concerned about Harold Landry, and I'm a lot more concerned, especially with the Michael Jordan news, about Simmons on the inside.
Yeah, so, it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it was already going to be tough, and I mean, now you're looking at Clowney. I mean, geez, I might have to go off Twitter for a while. Like all the Clowney narratives we're going to hear if he has a couple sacks.
Oh God, it's gonna be bad, right? And I remember when Clowney first came out, right? There was just that one play that everyone just looped over and over again, where he just destroys the running back in the backfield. And a good friend of mine, he's actually a Bucs fan, but we always have monitored the draft. We've always been like super diehard football fans, and so the first thing that he told me, he grew up in an area called Fort Pierce, Florida, that's down here in Florida, same hometown as Khalil Mack. And he was like, dude, I'm not even just being biased. And this was before like the draft happened and all that. This was leading up to the draft. He was like, Khalil Mack is going to be a better edge rusher than Jadeveon Clowney. People are just basically hyping up that one play. And that's the majority of what we saw and what he established for himself. And then you see how it has played out. And to me, I think Khalil Mack is in a whole other stratosphere than Clowney. I mean, I'm not going to say that Clowney's like trash or bad or anything like that, but Khalil Mack has just ascended to like, you know, essentially a guy that has been in the running in previous years for Defensive Player of the Year. And I don't think that we're ever going to really see Jadeveon Clowney on that level.
No, I mean, yeah, definitely not. I mean, again, he's just different. And you mentioned like he's real good against the run. I mean, he does things. He does some good things. He just doesn't do the super high valued things. You know, he's not that put him in and solve your pass rush woes problem as we see Mac is. You know, right. We saw that in Chicago. Like they needed Mac when they got him. You know, they gave up that pick and they needed him, and you know they've gotten what they need out of him. We're just gonna take a look real quick here. A couple of the plays of the week from last week, and I gotta add it first, or it doesn't work. A couple of plays of the week from last week, but first we're gonna look at a few plays I broke down in Hakeem Adeniji in college before he came out, before we even knew he was good.
4-year starter at Kansas at left tackle. All right, check out this play. All right, look at how athletic this dude is, right?
Oh yeah,
you know, big dude. Right, but look, he takes on this stunt, right? The guy he thinks is initially going to be responsible for, right? Goes to the inside, and look at how he adjusts and gets out there to take care of that edge and that wide blitzer. All right, awesome job, really good feet, really smooth. All right, but he's got power too. All right, we're going to see him on the run play here, driving down the field, getting movement. Gets a little bit of help from the fullback there late. All right, but getting movement, pushing down the field. All right, again, he's the left tackle. We're going to see him working out in space now. Gets up to the next level. Push that guy down. All right, push that edge defender down for the run game. Boom, on the ground. All right, so this is a guy. He's got some power. He's got some speed. He's an athletic dude. All right, and I think he could be a steal.
And now for the Narragansett High Neighbor Hit of the Game. The Browns were driving down the field with a chance to tie it up in the second quarter. But Josh Bynes made a great play in the backfield to force second and extra long. Bynes stopped Kareem Hunt in his tracks and stopped the Browns in their tracks as well. And they were forced to settle for a field goal on the drive. This was a great play in the backfield by Bynes and is this week's Narragansett High Neighbor Hit of the Game. And now for the Narragansett Fresh Catch of the Game. T. Higgins does it again. The rookie receiver has a real connection with Joe Burrow. Watch as he makes the play on this back shoulder throw. Higgins is an incredible talent. And Bengals fans have the Burrow to Higgins connection to look forward to for years to come. And that's why this is this week's Narragansett Fresh Catch of the Game.
All right, so a reminder and a few reminders in there. This pregame show is brought to you by Narragansett. If you're 21 plus, definitely grab a Gansett on the Sunday like today. I think we could all use one. It might be a little hair of the dog for some of you, but also help you get through today. So, yeah, I mean, so look, Hakeem is good, and we heard, Jim Turner talked about him. He thought he was a day 2 talent. I had him as a priority 4th round pick. Like I wouldn't have wanted to take him on day 2, but like I thought he should have gone really fast on day 3. He's got some skill, and he can move. He's a really good scheme fit for the Bengals. The one thing I think he's lacking is something that a lot of the Bengals linemen are lacking, and that's a real strong anchor. So I didn't really think we'd see him this year. I was kind of hoping he'd have an offseason to beef up, to get a little bit stronger like Jonah did. But here we are. So, time to grow up, see what the young guys got, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think listening to you and getting your perspective from him this offseason, I was definitely for sure excited about. I also talked to Willie Anderson about him, and he said that he was a guy that most believed should have gone ahead of the time that he actually did. He actually tried to work out, I believe, with Willie this offseason, but they had kind of scheduling conflicts and stuff like that. Obviously, with everything going on, that wasn't able to work out, but he did give a positive review about him. And like you said, we didn't expect to see him this season. I kind of actually did just a little bit, like you said, just based off of your analysis and hearing that potential and looking around and digging around and hearing that this guy, went a little later than he should have, just to see what he brings to the table, right? Obviously, it's a tall ask given that there's no preseason. He's learning a completely new NFL offense. He's still I don't know if he had any injuries or anything like that. I can't speak on that. But even if he did have some wear and tear on him from the college season, that's what a lot of people always forget is these guys technically play 2 seasons back to back. So they really don't get a break. So like you said, it was something that we probably didn't expect, but I actually was kind of looking forward to this. So it is going to be interesting to see what he can do. And that way we can kind of have an idea of the future of this offensive line. I think if anything, this game tells you what the future of this offensive line really looks like, what's behind the starters, where areas that they need to consistently improve, or are guys going to be and perform in certain areas better than some of the starters have. I think that that's a tall order to ask right now, but it's definitely from an evaluation standpoint, something that we could see. And I think that we've seen it in the past when I talk about guys like Christian Westerman, who obviously retired, but we would always be like wanting to see what Christian Westerman would actually do in the game, because we would see his Pro Football Focus scores in limited time and in the preseason, and they would jump off the charts, but we would never get the opportunity like we're getting right now to play them in a full game. So hopefully we can see that today with these offensive linemen for sure, particularly Hakeem in general is someone that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on.
Yeah, I mean, and they're in the worst possible situation because, with Hakeem, you're thinking, well, maybe he has to come in for Jonah, and okay, if he's got Michael Jordan next to him, like Jordan's been in there all year, somebody can communicate with, but we've got wall fresh blood in there. I think Billy started, one game, played about like a game and a half at guard this year, and has some experience going back. Fred Johnson had 2 starts this year, 1 last year, but I mean, it's a new unit in there. I mean, we're just seeing a lot of new blood, and right. It's a rough situation to really put these guys into. But I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. Sometimes everything's against you, and you have your back against the wall, and that's when the real dudes show up sometimes. So,
right,
maybe something will happen. Maybe a couple guys will put something together.
Right.
Maybe something will flash.
The one thing that was strange to me was we saw Fred come in last week at left tackle, and I assumed that they would keep him there at left tackle because we've already seen we've already seen him at right tackle and right guard. I thought that he looked decent. I know the PFF scores were pretty down on him, I think in the 40s. He didn't look that bad to me, at least in the game. I didn't go back and rewatch the film, but I didn't notice him. And I know that the first time that he also did that was the previous year for Cordy Glenn. He looked good that time. So I really wonder why they didn't give him the shot at left tackle. And maybe it may be because Hakeem can play left tackle and he's more natural there, and Fred can possibly play either left tackle or right tackle. So what were your thoughts on that? Did you expect Fred to be the right tackle? Did you expect him to be the left tackle today?
Well, I mean, in the game last week when Bobby went down, Fred moved over and they plugged Hakeem in at left. So I think it's probably just a matter of comfort level. I think when they just put the number 2 offense out there, it was probably Hakeem on the left and Fred on the right.
Gotcha.
And that's probably just a matter of, which Bengals fans will love to hear, probably a matter of them being more comfortable long-term with Jonah and maybe actually wanting Fred to push Bobby Hart there a little bit. Right. But yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I think Fred is probably the true swing tackle, that they were going to put in at left or right if one guy went down. And it probably just comes down to Hakeem's just, they don't feel as good about him there. He started at right tackle as a freshman at Kansas. For the last 3 years, he's played left tackle. I'm sure they're playing around with him, experimenting with him in different spots. Jim Turner actually a few weeks ago when they had a Zoom call said he was playing guard, he was playing tackle. He's like, yeah, I haven't yet, but at some point I'll get him snapping. So they're going to try and make him a versatile piece, but yeah, I think it probably just comes down to right now he's gotten most of his reps there. He's probably most comfortable out of that stance. I mean, I don't know how much left tackle, right tackle really matters. If when you're going against the Steelers and J.J. Watt's on one side, it matters a little bit more.
Sure.
But
sure.
when you're in the shotgun most of the time anyway, and you're trying to get rid of the ball fast, like I don't know, I don't know if the blindside is as big of a deal as it used to be.
Right.
I mean, it's not like they're doing like 7-step drops and stuff like that, like back in the day. So.
Yeah, it's tough here for sure. I'm sorry, I was going to say it's tough here for sure, especially with Shaq Calhoun starting off at that left guard position. It must be that he's more familiar than obviously the two guys that they just brought in this week. Even though they are active and they have more experience, just must be a familiarity with the scheme and the play calls there, I would expect.
I mean, yeah, a big part of it could be verbiage. Just learning a new language.
Right.
Not easy to do in a couple of days. And that's gonna be big too. I mean, if I'm the defensive coordinator of the Titans, I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff today because it's gonna be really hard for these guys to communicate. So I'm shifting my defense pre-snap. I'm sending twists. I'm sending stunts, and I'm trying to make them talk to each other. I'm really trying to force them to panic.
Right.
Like that's what you got to do, and that should be the real fear. It's not that there's obviously a drop off in talent overall with all these guys, but having these guys out there that aren't as familiar with each other is going to be a huge concern. And even if it was Quentin Spain coming in, and maybe he's the best guard on the team, I don't know, maybe he is. You got to, it's that cohesiveness and being able to communicate with each other. Just having the language to be able to make the changes that you need to make live.
Right, and that's where Billy Price, I think, comes in as the key factor in this game, with him being the center, him having to get all these guys together. This is going to be a huge game for him. Obviously, he hasn't lived up to that potential pick that we picked him at, but this is a huge game for him. I think, like you said, with there being a lot of guys out there that aren't really familiar with what's going on, him playing that position of the center, he's going to have to get all those guys on the same page. So it's going to be an important game for him.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got the advantage that he's started games at left and right guard. So, from that perspective, and in this system too, he started games at both last year. So, I mean, like that's a bit of an advantage for him. Should be able to help him out with that situation. I mean, really, right now it's Redmond's got some experience, but you're putting quite a bit on Price there. But who's going to rise? Who's going to step up? I mean, that's the sort of thing you got to deal with in these situations, I guess.
Definitely. What do you think about? Obviously, we've talked about the offensive line. How does this defense really do a good job at stopping Derrick Henry? Because I think that obviously a lot of teams, a lot of players don't want to tackle Derrick Henry. I'm thinking about, and I'm getting nightmares of week 2 with the Browns running all over us, and I'm like, okay, neither of those guys were Derrick Henry. What are we going to do to be able to stop a guy like this? Because obviously Fournette last year ran through us, said that the Bengals defense didn't want to tackle him. Obviously those guys have kind of been swapped out a little bit. But what can the Bengals do, I think, in order to kind of prevent Derrick Henry from really just running away with this game?
I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, they've gotten better at stopping the run over the last few weeks. I mean, obviously game flow helps out with that a lot. Definitely, certainly did against the Jaguars early on. But, going back to the Ravens game, they've started to get pretty decent at stopping the run. This is a good offensive line in Tennessee. It's not just about Henry. So, they have the potential to open up some holes for him. But really, the big difference with Henry is the tackling.
Right.
Henry's like the picture of him dwarfing Deion Lewis. That's like the most, other than DK lifting weights without a shirt on. That's like probably like the most iconic picture out there.
Oh yeah, there's also the one with him dwarfing Mark Ingram. Makes Mark Ingram look like he's his son or something sitting next to him.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, I mean, that would have been somebody should have done that for Halloween with their kid. That would have been great. But but I mean, yeah. So he's a massive dude, and he can break some tackles. And this team still isn't very good at tackling. They have gotten better overall at stopping the run, but they still fall off, bounce off too many tackles. So I'm very concerned about that aspect of it. I think, Amani Bledsoe, Xavier Williams, Covington, like some of these new guys in the defensive front they brought in are doing a really good job against the run. We're not getting after the passer at all, but they're doing a really good job stopping the run. Right. But yeah, it's like, can you make the play when it gets to that point? Can Bynes and Wilson and Pratt and these guys get in there and make that play? That's going to be what it comes down to me.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. Another guy I know that you're high on as well, and after reviewing some of the film, I feel like he deserves more snaps than he's getting. Logan Wilson. I think Logan Wilson and even Hakeem Davis-Gaither, I don't know if obviously they feel comfortable with Bynes and Pratt there, and I really like Pratt. He always seems to be in the right spot at the right time, but it seems that they could at least spell those guys with a Logan Wilson more, Hakeem Davis-Gaither, obviously. What are your thoughts on that perspective? Do you think that it should be time for them to get Logan Wilson more snaps and maybe reduce Bynes, or do you think that their current rotation is what they should have? And also, we've also got a guy waiting in the wings as well with Marcus Bailey, who has literally only gotten special team snaps, really. What are your thoughts on the linebackers so far?
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that's a good problem to have because I think after not having any talent there for a long time, right. Actually pretty deep, pretty strong, I think it's going to be interesting this offseason to see if they bring back Bynes or not, because I do think he is playing at a high level, but you got all these rookies like you mentioned Marcus Bailey, not even getting a look right now. Jordan Evans is going to be a free agent, and he actually looks kind of decent right now for the first time. Right. So yeah, I mean, I think that Wilson and Davis-Gaither are both showing that they should be getting a little bit more action. They're playing a lot of passing downs, a lot of third downs right now. Right. I think they should get in there a little bit more. I think in particular with the lack of pass rush, I think both of them can help in that aspect, especially Davis-Gaither. Position he played in college was weird. I mean, it was kind of an edge, it was kind of a nickel corner. Like it was like this weird hybrid thing. So I think they should be creative with both those guys because I think Wilson can bring some heat too. And trying to get some pressure. Wilson is a little bit more of the pure linebacker. So I think that's why he's getting more of the attention now. As you mentioned, Davis-Gaither is a little bit of a hybrid of a mixed guy, and you got to be creative with a little bit. Right. But no, I agree with you on that. I think it seems like Wilson's about ready to take Bynes' spot, but they love his leadership. He's, getting the defense lined up and everything, being a veteran a little bit. Right. And we saw the high neighborhood of the week from Narragansett there. Like he does things like that. Like right. He has some little lapses and is a little slow into a spot and every once in a while, but then he just has moments where he just boom, shoot the gap and makes a 3-yard tackle for a loss. Logan Wilson also had a tackle for a loss that very similar to the Bynes thing. Led to a third and very long, led to a second and very long, led to a field goal eventually for them that I've considered using for that same clip. So they both kind of do some of those things. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely about the rotation, about keeping those guys fresh and getting after it, because especially going against Derrick Henry, like you're going to see it. You're gonna get a lot of that action, and you want to keep those guys fresh throughout the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, somebody said this in the comments. Is that a Higgins?
Yes, it is a Higgins. I was going to actually say after you did your thing, I was like, that was perfect because they talked about 9-85 from Burrow to Higgins, and we're literally wearing those jerseys right now. So, yeah, definitely a Higgins for sure.
This was not planned. This is just you guys really being on the same page.
Definitely.
So sure. if our offensive line can be in sync like this today, they might be okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that can give us some hope is just how this offense, outside of the offensive lineman, which the offensive linemen have been playing good, but Joe Burrow and him being in sync with these receivers, we talk about Higgins, we talk about A.J. Green, we talk about Tyler Boyd, and even Mike Thomas has gotten some love there. And even Drew Sample last week got in on the action, and obviously Giovanni Bernard. I think that that's going to be something that keeps us in this game. Titans, with them not having a strong defense right now, I think they're, if I'm not mistaken, in the middle of the pack when it comes to the defense in terms of DVOA. That can give Joe Burrow some opportunities. What are your thoughts on what Joe Burrow can do against this Titans offense or defense? I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, I think there's going to be some opportunities there. You got to watch out for Bayard. He doesn't have a pick yet, but like that guy's a machine. I really think this game's an interesting sub-note of this game is I think you've got the best like true ball hawking center fielding safeties in the game with Bates and Bayard. So you got to watch out for that a little bit. We got to make sure we keep them clean. But yeah, I mean this receiver group has really come together. And early on people were talking about nobody's getting open, and like I wasn't really so sure. I was like, for the most part, I was like, they're doing all right. They're pretty good, but they're really in sync, and they are getting open now. I mean, they're not like look. Maybe they don't have the most separation of anybody in the league. Like I see those numbers and stuff. I know they're not great, but that's not who Higgins is. You know what I mean? That's not who AJ Green really is. These are guys that make contested catches. These are guys that get open. I was actually watching Boston College versus Clemson yesterday, and their Boston College's starting quarterback got hurt on a third down play, and they had to go for it on fourth.
Oh,
so
wow!
The backup quarterback comes in cold, and they threw like a 4-yard hitch route to this big tight end they have, who's leading the nation in receptions by a tight end, and it was clear it was just like, oh, well, they're just like we got the backup in, so just tell the tight end to box out the defense and just be huge and throw him the damn ball. And I think that's kind of how our receivers play. Like they know how to use their bodies. Higgins is not an easy guy to get around. Auden Tate, AJ Green, these are not easy guys to be able to get around. So I don't know if the yards of separation numbers really mean much when it comes to this team, because I don't think that's how John Ross wins. That's how Michael Thomas wins to some extent. But that's not how the guys that are really at the top of this depth chart win. And I think T and AJ and Boyd are looking really good right now.
Yeah.
I still don't think AJ is AJ per se. Because he just doesn't go up for the ball like he used to.
Right.
That's the one thing that's missing. But right now, if he's willing to, come in for a decent price, I think he's coming back. I think he's getting extended, and I think that's going to be a pretty good little trio for a couple of years, and then they'll bring in somebody to replace AJ. But I think this receiver group's pretty good, and I think they should have a good day today. Well, how about you?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think a lot of these guys, separation has never really been what they've been known for. Even coming out of college, you look at Tyler Boyd. He's not the fastest guy, but I think that sometimes people underestimate that there's a difference between field speed and 40 speed and stuff like that. And there's more that goes into the receiver position. And in terms of just speed, there's route running, there's all kind of other ways that you can kind of create separation. And then you also hit the nail on the head with the body mismatches. If you got a corner that's 5'11" against a guy that's 6'4", that's a disadvantage for the corner. I don't care how, fast they are. They're not going to be able to jump over the top of a guy like a AJ Green or a T Higgins and guys of that nature. And then it also depends on how much separation they get at the end of the play and ways that they can kind of move their body and stuff like that. So for me, I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's not their game, and that's never really been their game, and they're still able to make plays. I think, like you said, too, AJ hasn't really been attacking the ball like he has in years previous. The one thing that really stuck out to me was I think I actually kind of noticed that a few years ago because I went back to 2011, and he was attacking everything in the air. Like you go back to his rookie year, literally was like almost every other play He's jumping up and doing that. I don't know if it's maybe something mentally with him thinking about possibly coming down with an injury or trying to reduce that injury or something like that. But, like you said, he's settled into his role. I think he's still, even if AJ Green per se takes a step back or something like that, he's still better than a lot of guys around the league. Same with Geno Atkins in terms of that regard. And I think, like you said, if he's willing to take kind of that Larry Fitzgerald kind of role, obviously Larry moved to the slot. We're probably not going to do that with AJ, but he's willing to, line up on different sides of the field, in the slot, on the outside, to the left, to the right. I think that you can make that work. I don't think that, like you said, if he comes back for a reasonable number, why not? Because he's going to be a guy that can also give that knowledge, which is extremely important to the younger guys, to the Tyler Boyds, to the T. Higgins. I mean, I think I've even seen on some of the film reviews, he'll go after T makes a play and kind of talk to him about what he should have done there or something that he can do different. So it's extremely valuable there. And I also think, like you said, Mike Thomas and maybe some other guys, they can still get a guy that can take the top off of the defense. But I think these guys are looking very good together. You would hope that John Ross would be out there, but obviously they've kind of made a transition from that. So obviously we just got to go with these guys that we have and not really most of them aren't really guys that take the top off of the defense, but they can make plays, as we saw T. Higgins do a few weeks back. So in that regards, I think that they should be on the same page with Burrow. And when they're hot and when they're clicking, it just gets exciting. And we saw that happen in the Colts game. It didn't get the result that we wanted, right? But it seemed to somewhat also continue the next week again last week. So I would hope that we would be able to continue that this week and see what we can do there. But yeah, I'm very excited about Joe Burrow and this receiving core.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good group. It'd be great. I see people talking about receivers, a potential first-round pick. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
Especially obviously if they bring AJ back, that's what it really depends on. I don't think that's going to be the case. But I would love to get a speedy guy on day 3 or something that needs a lot of work. And then, you can bring him in, you can spell a little bit, you can have that kind of change up threat with that guy. So I guess the other big thing going on offensively, and coming up on about 22 here, so we'll get you out of here in a minute. I know you got to get running with game day and all, but so Mixon's out. I mean, we haven't even talked about that because the O-line's such a big deal. But so Mixon's out once again. Obviously, Gio really stepped up last week, game flow wise, and for what this team has had to be in the passing game. Like Gio's really a better fit in a lot of ways because he's so good in blitz pickup. And he's excellent on those screens.
Right.
Does a great job in the open field. What do you think about Gio and the type of day that he can have today?
I think that you're going to see something similar to what you saw last week. Not much yardage on the ground, but he is going to step up in pass protection, like you said. He's also going to get those screens, and that was key. And that was one thing that I liked that Zach learned from that Ravens game. And he tried to do it in that Ravens game. It just wasn't executed well when he tried to hit some of those screens when they were throwing the blitz. But it really worked last week, and I was looking forward to that because I knew that the Browns were susceptible to those kind of passes, and I even had kind of called that out before going into the game, like, hey, attack them on the short left and short right, hit them with the screen pass or something like that. You've got to do that, or else these guys are going to try to keep blitzing guys and keep trying to do what the Baltimore Ravens did, and that keeps them honest. So I think that you're going to see that with Gio, and I think you hit the nail on the head too. He's a better fit for what they want to do. And I was listening to, I believe it was another podcast, and they had Jeff Hobson on there, right? And he talked about the fact that he didn't really think that Zach really wants to run the ball as much. He thinks that Zach really wants to pass the ball. Well, if that's the case, that's where Gio is a better fit if that's what you want to do. If that's what your plan is to pass the ball majority of the game instead of running and attack through the air, Gio is your guy. Mixon can be that guy. He's not a great pass blocker at all, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield. But Gio can just essentially do it all. I mean, I think that if this is the type of offense that you want to run, it's more conducive to have Gio do that. And I think that we're kind of in a weird situation, right? Because we just gave Mixon the extension, but we want to get away from running the ball all the time and passing it more, which really isn't a strong suit for Mixon in terms of his pass blocking ability. So I think that Gio's going to be big in this game for sure, as he always is. And I think that sometimes he doesn't get the credit that he deserves because everyone wants to see basically Mixon and Gio just be this amazing tandem and just lead the league and just have no one be able to stop them. And it hasn't really worked like that. But I think if you have the game flow, like you said, with what we have right now, Gio's the best guy for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's going to be huge this week. Look, Jim Turner, we have all questioned Jim Turner at varying levels and his abilities and what they can do. We have seen this O-line get better throughout the course of the year, particularly at screens. I think that was a big part of the thing in the first Browns game. Like, the O-line wasn't getting where they needed to be, and they got a lot better at it. And then Gio's just a little better at executing it than Joe Mixon is as well. So that's going to be a really big thing to me. Was Jim Turner developing 5 guys over the last few weeks, or was he developing 10, 10 plus? You know, like, if these guys can step up and if these guys look good, Turner's doing a hell of a job. Like, if all, the whole depth of the O-line got better, significantly better over the last few weeks, that is a ridiculous coaching job by Turner. And, we're all going to have to rethink our evaluation of him if that is the case. So, hey, we got one host coming in and one host heading out. I know Ace has got to get rolling, but make sure you're
what's up, Ace
and his work if you're doing already. Tell them where to follow you on Twitter and your YouTube channel and everything.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at New Stripe City. You can obviously hear me on the Cincy Jungle podcast, Orange is the New Black, with me and my guy Zim. And you can also catch me on YouTube with the channel name New Stripe City.
All right, awesome. Well, appreciate you coming by, and we'll definitely have some more crossover work with Ace and Zim, John and Anthony and myself over the bye week as we kind of look to collaborate with some other people and figure out exactly what's going on and update where we're at in the season. So thanks a lot, Ace.
All right, brothers. Who dey?
See you, man.
All right, Anthony.
What's going on, Matt?
So now you're on the West Coast, so not sure how long you've been up for, but we had some big news this morning.
Okay.
You don't know?
I haven't even had a chance to look, my friend.
All right.
So something came up.
What is the one position where the Bengals could not afford to wake up with somebody sick?
Probably quarterback.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an even better answer. But Michael Jordan will be missing this game with a COVID illness.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
So we are sitting at 0 day one starters on the offensive line with Jadeveon Clowney, Harold Landry, and Jeffrey Simmons coming at you. So fantastic.
Oh, boy. Well, I guess we're in roster evaluation mode. We're in offensive line evaluation mode at this point. Sorry, I was a little behind again today. I actually had to my brother was out of town, so I had to take care of his dog this morning, kind of last minute. So I had to do that. But anyway, that's a little concerning. Hadn't had a chance to really catch up on some of that stuff, so that's not good. And I guess at this point it's just kind of see what you got with who you have left and see if any of these guys are viable starters, spot starters, or backup players, what have you. But I will say this, Matt, when I talked to Denard Walker, I don't know if you played that clip yet or not, but when I talked to him earlier this week, he had said the Titans have had a little bit of trouble kind of getting to the passer at points. So this year, that's kind of one of their it's not necessarily a weakness, but it's not necessarily a big strength of theirs. They have some talented guys like you mentioned, but he kind of mentioned that as a potential spot that the Bengals could maybe try and exploit, I guess. But even so, you've got now a makeshift line for the Bengals, not looking good.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like Jadeveon Clowney is just going to make a bunch of money by putting up 3 sacks today and looking like he's having a good year or something. And but yeah, no, it's brutal. And really, like Bobby Hart's somebody that has taken a lot of heat from fans, from the media. That was his best game, according to PFF.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan has. I really liked him last year. I thought I saw a nice little curve going with how he was going, and he has majorly plateaued this year, but last week he was pretty good. So it's just one of those things that, like, it sucks because you get these guys that, like, you're waiting for it, and then, like, they have a pretty good game, and bam, now they're out. So really a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, and we've criticized Jim Turner too. This is an opportunity for him to kind of prove a little bit his worth as a coach. If some of these backups come in and actually play even at an average level, a respectable level, I mean, that would be something that you can put in his corner as, hey, we've been critical of him as well. But, if these guys end up coming in here and this makeshift line across the board is doing some things, you got to tip the cap there. I want to ask you this because I thought this was interesting, and I don't know if you addressed it earlier, but Adeniji at left tackle, Fred Johnson at right. I thought that would have been flipped based on Fred playing left tackle last week and doing okay. And then, you had him playing pretty well at the end of 2019 at left tackle. Adeniji, a rookie, you plug him in at left tackle, blocking the blind side of Burrow. A little concerning for me, but I guess also this is kind of, I guess it's trial by fire. See what this kid can do on the left side. Is that what we're what we're faced with?
I think it's probably just what he's most comfortable with.
Okay.
When they put out their first team O-line, and then when they put out their second team O-line, he's probably the one taking the reps at left, which is probably good because it means that Jim Turner's not 100% happy with Bobby Hart, and so that would be why Fred would be taking more snaps on the right. So, I think it's probably just a comfort thing. Hakeem, he started his freshman year in college at right tackle, and he started at left tackle the last 3 years. So, maybe he just doesn't feel great in a right hand, on a right-handed stance. Maybe he just doesn't feel great on that side of the line of scrimmage right now. Would be my guess about it. That is what they did at the end of the game too. So, like, I was talking about this on Monday, like that. I thought it was in the middle of a drive too. Bobby Hart is the right tackle, gets hurt on a run play in the middle of that final drive, and Hakeem comes in. Fred shifts over to the right. Hakeem went in at left.
Yeah. He's also listed as a guard on their website, which is also kind of interesting. I mean, that's his primary position listed there. So, that's kind of where I was like, what are we doing here as the Bengals? But, I know they like him as a left or right tackle, but I mean, it was just kind of when you saw that come out this week, it was just, oh, okay, I guess he's playing left tackle.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see what he does. Like, probably where he's more comfortable. It would have been great to have the rookie. Maybe this is part of what went into it too, but it would have been nice to have the rookie next to Michael Jordan. Now you don't have that. Now you got Shaq Calhoun in there. So right. Just to have somebody who's got some experience at that spot on that side, and more so than Redmond a little bit in recent years anyway. But now we are where we are. So, Billy Price is going to have to take the lead. And like you said, I think we talk about Jim Turner, and a lot of the criticism is fair, but the O-line has gotten better, just not at the speed that we would like it to, much like last year, and I think you hope after last year you're going to start at a higher level and keep going up instead of going back down and up. They've gotten better, and I think if he can bring out a completely different crew of offensive linemen, and they look better than those guys did in the first 2 weeks, that's a pretty strong statement about what kind of a coach he is. So it's not like, okay, I got to figure out 5 guys and get it ready. If he's got, I guess it's 9 guys, 10 guys, whatever it is. Like, if he's got all those guys a lot better over the course of 8 weeks, I'm feeling a lot better about him as a positional coach at that point.
Yeah, and it's also, I think the question needs to be asked, what is the bar today with all these replacements? What do I mean? Like, we thought Billy Price and Fred Johnson played pretty well. And you look at last week, in relief, that is, and you kind of look at it and you go, well, Billy Price did have a bad snap and a couple of penalties. Fred Johnson had a penalty as well late in the game that if you saw Burrow was all over him after that penalty.
Some of the same balance issues he had last year too. Just stuff and let guys get away from him.
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of, but we still said pretty good performance by those guys, right? So I guess I'm kind of going, well, with all of these guys that are coming in as reserves on the offensive line today, what is the bar and what will we gauge success and what will we use to pat Jim Turner on the back, right? I mean, that's kind of,
Sure.
Maybe we don't know it till we see it, but I will say that if this line plays pretty admirably, with all these reserves across the board there, you got to give Jim Turner some credit there for doing this and putting it together last minute like this.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be impressive just to see that jump. And obviously, like, that doesn't change some other things. It doesn't change that you would like to have a running game before the bye week.
Right.
And you wouldn't, you don't want it to start out so low. But yeah, that would definitely be huge. I don't know. Like, Shaq Calhoun has started some games, not for us. Billy, like, he was a first round pick. Fred's got a little bit of experience. Like, you definitely have a pretty low bar for Hakeem. Ideally, if you're starting Hakeem in his rookie year, you'd like to think that you have at least 3 or 4 of the guys you started with out there, beside him, just to support him. But no, I mean, that's a good point. I think we can't have too high of a bar. We have to accept these guys are going to make mistakes. But I think it's just going to come down to, if Burrow has the chance to run an offense, and he's not getting smoked all the time. I don't know if there's a sack number, but like, just keeping him clean enough to be able to effectively run the offense, I think it's a win. I think it's a win for the O-line coach and for that makeshift O-line in that situation.
Yeah, and the 2 new guys aren't playing, right? Spain and the new.
Yeah, I don't know if Spain wasn't listed as inactive. Or I'm sorry, no. Spain is playing. Spain's a backup. The other dude, geez, I lost his name.
Finney.
Yeah, Finney. I haven't really seen anything about him, like, even being listed as a reserve. I assume he's the backup center because I don't think I guess Michael Jordan can snap, but I guess
my point was they're not starting it because it's obviously too. I mean, I think they feel it's too soon to just throw them out there without many practices or anything like that. So
yeah, I mean, that's the better situation. I mean, like, now all of a sudden we're going to come into the bye week and come back, and hopefully everybody's healthy. Maybe even Suafilo's getting close to being healthy, and then they got these 2 new guys at guard. So. It could be some opportunities there to see what's going on. I mean, 2 new guys at guard, I say, but one of them's a center too. So, a lot of talent in there, a lot of opportunities. For those of you who have said trade Billy Price forever, if Hopkins and Kinney are healthy, now you actually can trade Billy Price if you want to. But they weren't going to do it when he was the backup center. But if you got Kinney in there and a healthy Hopkins, maybe that is an option for you. We're coming up about 5 minutes before kickoff right now, so I mean, we're all just getting caught up right now with everything. But what do you think? What's your prediction for this one?
It's either going to be really ugly or surprisingly close, and I don't think either way the Bengals will end up in the W column today. Unfortunately, I wish I could say otherwise, but there's just continuous hurdles, and I'd like to think that they keep it competitive once again. I think then if they do, that 1 score theme or whatever the record that Zach Taylor has, that may come back around as a narrative into the bye week again. But the thing is, Matt, unfortunately, it's if the Bengals don't win today, regardless of how they lose, there's going to be a narrative, whether it's Zach Taylor can't win close games or if they get blown out, then you point to the John Ross situation, you point to the Carlos Dunlap situation, you point to the offensive line being a mess, and you go, what's going on with this team? So, I hope they win just to really kind of shut everybody up. But unfortunately, if they lose, regardless of how they do it, there's going to be a narrative there. I think I have Tennessee winning this game at about 10 points, so I'd probably say like 33-23.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah, and on that narrative, like you're talking about, this is if you're going to make a change at head coach, or if you're going to make a change at quarterback, which you're not going to make a change at quarterback, but if you're going to do one of those two things, coming into the bye week is when you do it. So I mean, there could be that push too. That I don't think they're going to do it. Period. Maybe if they don't win another game all year, maybe. But I don't think Zach Taylor's seat is as hot as we might think it is.
I don't think it is either. Yeah.
And part of the thing, and just something for people to think about, is you brought in a guy to be an offensive coordinator, really. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to learn how to be a coach, how to be a head coach. So some of the game flow things we're seeing with him, I think you knew when you brought him in that he was going to have those issues.
Yeah.
And, some of the situational offense isn't great, but I think he calls a pretty good game overall. And I like some of the play design and stuff. So I think he's doing what you hired him to do. He just needs to learn to do the rest of it. And I think the Bengals are one of the few teams that'll probably give him time to do that. So,
right.
Hopefully he's the right guy to take advantage of it. But look, everything is negative here. Like, the O-line is so beat up. The defense has struggled so much, especially recently. You got Derrick Henry. You got a guy who's impossible to tackle going up against a team that has problems tackling. I kind of think they're going to win. I don't know why.
Yeah.
No reason for it. And I'm really trying not to be like I'm obviously I'm biased. Look at me, I'm biased, but I don't know. It's just like there's so much against them that maybe this is when they just say nope, F it, because they've done that to some extent in some of these games. Like some of these close games shouldn't have been close. A lot of them, talent wise and situation wise.
Yeah.
Nobody expected that Browns game to be close. Nobody expected the defense to play well against the Ravens. Obviously, that game wasn't close, but the defense played pretty well for that Ravens game. So maybe this is the day when they finally say F it, and they just all go balls to the wall on it. And even though they're not as talented and they probably should win this game, they come together and they do it.
I would love to see it.
With everything they face, and the Dunlap stuff too. Like, maybe this is what galvanizes them and puts them together.
It'd be a banner win for Zach Taylor.
I'm going to be the guy that does it. I'm calling the win, baby.
Yeah, well, it'd be a banner
ain't gonna be
win.
pretty. It's going to be freaking ugly. But I'm calling a Bengals win, less than a score. Yeah, well, that's right, a 1-score game win.
There you go. Well, Stephen Hoffman thinks I hate the Bengals because I don't pick against them, just because they've have 5.5 wins in 2.5 years of football. But I don't hate the Bengals, for the record. I just would like to see them win, and they haven't been winning a lot lately. So
It wants me though.
But I will say, Matt, I like your pick. There is something does seem a little fishy today, and maybe in a positive way for the Bengals. And hopefully, if they pull that off, Zach Taylor can say, "Shut up, everybody. We got a big win."
Right? Like, sometimes when everything's wrong, everything's in a corner. I don't know. And maybe the Dunlap thing being over is good for everybody. Maybe the Bengals get a win and Dunlap has 2 sacks today. I don't freaking know. But all right, we got less than a minute till kickoff, so we better say goodbye. This is the pregame show brought to you by Narragansett. Thanks for checking us out today. Come on back a little bit later. Anthony will be here, hopefully very excited and taking you through what happened in this game. So come on back to see Anthony on the post-game show. Hoo day.
See you, Matt.
Yep.